Thank you, Rachel. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to sit in on this webinar. I'm Jim Steiber, Director of Engineering for Control Consultants, Inc. We are the New England Regional Vykon distributor, and this is one of several telecasts, WebExes that we're going to do on Vykon products. But this one, very excited about Reflow. It's the modern kind of mobile HMI for Niagara that sits on top of Niagara that a lot of you have asked for a long time in the past. It obviously scales exactly the way you would think it would on a mobile device. It takes your Niagara interface to the mobile experience and makes it much easier to use when you're out and about for your users and yourselves and your teams. But I think it's even much more than that. I think if you were to watch some of the deep dive videos that are out there, or even play around with the demo version, or as if you're a Vykon integrator, hopefully on this call, you've got a Vykon Workbench, which comes with the Reflow licensed in there, so you can run it on your instance of Workbench. But this is an exciting product, and I think once you kick the tires on it, and like I said, watch some of the deep dive videos out there from soup to nuts, you'll realize that probably you won't use the Niagara UI environment much at all. This would probably maybe even be your default UI, and I would certainly argue for kiosk applications and dashboard, it's a slam dunk. So anyhow, we have some exciting telecasts coming up. I want to just mention them briefly before we move on. Just keep your eye out for some other Vykon WebExes coming up for the VEC10 IP equipment controller, the JEC 834 equipment controller, Vykon tenant billing, analytics, and some unique Vykon drivers that are only available in the Vykon channel, and Vykon Pro as well, to name a few. Today's format, we will try to keep the presentation to 45 minutes. And questions, we're going to hold all questions to the end, but please use the Q&A link on your Zoom window to enter the questions as we go along. And then we're going to work down through those lists towards the end, and whatever we don't get to, we'll contact you via email with the answers. But that's just the formatting housekeeping thing. And I would like to introduce the other folks on the call with me today here. We have Roxette Manchero. She is the Senior Vykon Sales Channel Lead. And with her is Adam Bergman. He is the Reflow developer and technical rep for Reflow. And also with us today is Tony Kufo. He's the Director of Sales at CCI. And Jessica Greenwood, who's our CCI branch sales and marketing support. And then a big shout out to Rachel Gunther. She's the sales and marketing lead and our Kelly liaison. So with that, I will turn it over to Roxette, and we're going to do a live demo for y'all and take it from there. Roxette, take it away, please.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jim. Good morning, everybody. My name is Roxette Mancero. I am the Vykon channel rep here for some national accounts, CCI being one of those. For those of you who don't know, Vykon is Tritium's house brand of the Niagara platform, the JEC 8000, and the Edge 10 controllers. Now, Reflow has an exclusive deal with Tritium and Vykon right now. So Reflow is exclusive to Vykon, and it is basically a graphical user interface that scales to whatever device or screen size you're utilizing it on. So my agenda for today is going to be as follows. We are going to briefly go over a end user demo in the beginning. We're going to go over the dashboards, navigation, the alarms, schedules, histories, equipment, buildings, floor plans, and the customizable pages. And then in the second half, I'm going to do a technical demo where I'm going to go and show y'all how everything is done, where the pages are that you create all of your Reflow pages, where you create the dashboard, and how you make your Reflow page. So just as a reminder, housekeeping rules, any questions that you have at any point, just put them in the Q&A. That way we can answer them at the end. And then without further ado, I'm going to get started. So bear with me here for 1 second as I switch over my pages to get into the right page here. So as you all know, like I said, Reflow is a modernized graphical user interface. It takes the user on a customized experience through the Niagara platform, and it is exclusive to Vykon by Tritium. All right, can everybody see this page here where it's a blank page? It says demo username and password.
Sure can.
Perfect. So when we're getting into Reflow, it is going to be just like you would log into a workbench page that you're creating from your stations. Now, the big dashboard is what we're going to look at now. So this is what your screen would look like on an end user point of view. You'd have your logos up here, once again, completely customizable. You're going to have any pictures, branding that you'd like to have. Here in the dashboard, these cards are all customizable. You can pick and select what information you'd like to present. And this also depends on whether or not you're having, someone in the C-suite looking at a Reflow station or a technical person, someone that's feet on the streets, with a wrench in their hands. Up here, you have the dashboard and your navigation in the dashboard, where you'll have your buildings, alarms, schedules, equipment, histories, KPIs, and your login and logout information. Just so you're aware, this is customizable as well. So depending on who's looking at it, you can have all of these navigation items or just some. Now, just to show y'all here, Reflow does resize to the screen dimension. So this is what it would look like on a mobile phone or whatever you're looking at it for, but we'll use this for the time being. Now, I'm going to get right into the alarm schedules and histories now. So with the alarms, just take a note that all your alarms are pulling from your alarm console in Workbench. So we're not recreating the wheel, we're just pulling all that information here. Your alarms are going to be by priority as well. You'll have high priority, medium, low, and total alarms on here. You can change your alarms and look at active or unacknowledged only. You can look at them via specific priorities, and you're able to look at your alarms during a certain time frame. This makes it easy for you to utilize this on the go if you're in a remote location, anything like that. With your schedules, the schedules here, you can quickly search for your schedules up here in the top part of the search. You're able to search by floors, by equipment, by building, whatever you need to look at. And it allows you to access your station and schedules in one place and make changes with the familiar Niagara schedule editor. So something you're going to note here is that the schedule will look like what it looks like in your Workbench station. You do not need to learn how to recreate schedules, folks. Reflow does that for you. It automatically pulls in all the schedules on your station and allows you to show or hide schedules to any specific end user role as appropriate. So just to show y'all, it is exactly like it looks like in Workbench. You can have all your schedules up here. Now, in some of the pages that we look at today, you're going to have a sub navigation, and that is going to pertain exactly to what we're looking at here. So we can go back into schedules here. Once again, you have the search here that you can look at, and you can go into whatever you need to go as far as scheduling. Now, when we're looking at our histories, it is the same. Reflow automatically pulls all your historical trends from your Niagara station and allows you to group and feature them in a way that makes sense to whoever's utilizing the Reflow page. We have a chart builder in Reflow that allows the end users to plot the multiple data points out of 5 different chart types. Now, like I said, you can search all of the histories that you're looking at here. You can search them by building, by equipment, by point, however you're looking for them. There is also a filter button that takes the display here that you can take a look at. So you can look at histories by buildings here. You can look at histories by types, numeric or Boolean is what we have in this example. And then you're able to go from a chart to a graph location here as well. When we're going into a specific history, you have featured there. Now we're going into an air handler for a building. You have multiple points here. All these points are labeled up here. Once again, we have the sub navigation here. You can export your history if you'd like to pull it into a different report. You are able to take a look and change the mapping of the way it is. So you can look at the histories in different visualizations. And you're able to sort by a time frame. Now, if you're looking to chart specific data or add or take away, you are also able to do that as well. So you can add different types of points into a specific history, and then you can view that chart. So the more you add points, the more you can look at, or you can look at less points. You're able to track over a different time frame. depending on who's looking at the information. And that is very helpful because then you can export that information as well. Now we're going to hop over to the equipment portion. So with the equipment here, in the equipment tab in the navigation, you're able to look at all of the equipment that you have by type of equipment, or you're able to look at the equipment by building. Now, one thing to note here is when we're looking at the type of equipment, each part here has a featured point. As you can see, they all show a specific point for each type of equipment. When we're going into the equipment themselves, they've got something called the featured point up here. Now in Reflow, you are able to change that featured point. So you can look at an active space set point for an air handler as an example. You can look at air pressure, you can look at humidity dampers, whatever information you'd like to look at, you're able to select and change as your featured point. When we look at the back end of this, we'll see how you can select the featured point that is by default. You'll notice here that we have a little red line on this specific unit. This is going to be an alarm. It'll show us here that we are under alarm, and it'll show us here that the discharge air temperature is an alarm. As you can see in this little part here on the equipment for the graphic, it's showing us a historical trend. If we have on a specific equipment a historical trend, it'll track it, and it'll also give us action items for some of the points. So if the point has an action item like an auto, override, or a set point change, you will see it here. If it is showing a red line, it is an alarm mode. And if it is showing a purple side mark, it is an override that someone has done in the system. So back into the featured set points, just so y'all can see that, we're looking at the different equipment. We've got the featured set points up here that you can change. Once again, we're not changing the data in Reflow. We are just changing the way we are visualizing it. So also here, you can take a look at a table. So you have a table option in the equipment tab in the navigation up here, where you can look at the different equipment on the left, and you can select the columns of the information that is pertinent to you. In this example, we've got here in red, the discharge air temperature. So we have this in an alarm. Once again, it'll show up in a red, bold font. When we're looking at the table options, you can edit the columns here and you can add status labels. The status labels will give you the alarming information as well. So we can see that here we have an alarm that is unacknowledged currently, and we have acknowledged alarms. If you're looking at to edit the columns here for this specific for all your air handlers in this table view of the equipment, you can go in, take a look at the active columns that you have, and you can add or take away. So you can take something in, you can add them, as you can see in the back. It is adding the information as we're doing it live. You can add whatever you'd like, you hit select, you hit done, and here it is. So you can put as much information as you'd like or take away as much information as you'd like. It is completely customizable. And once again, when we're looking at this from a phone point of view, you will be able to note that it scales it down. It shows it as cards, and you don't have to find that you're using, anything outside of your thumb to look through your phone and acknowledge everything here. If we're looking at the grid view from your phone, it rescales to that as well, and you're able to see that information here. Once again, this is all for the equipment part. So anything that you have set as your featured point will show. And then if you go into a specific type of equipment, you're able to make those changes as well. So here we see that we have an unacknowledged alarm or something was overridden, and it tracks the histories as well. Now, when we go into the group by building in the equipment, you'll be able to note that we've got all the different buildings here that we're looking at. So you're able to see all the information and equipment in a specific floor for each of those buildings. All the featured temperatures or featured points are all here. So if we go into the lobby, we can see all the equipment in the lobby of the Student Center in the equipment tab in the navigation. So if you ever find yourself getting into too many screens or trying to get back to where you are, just like you're doing in Workbench, you're able to trace back where you're looking at and where you were going to in the first place. So we're looking at different information here. Like I said, you have a gas meter. If it is tracking a history, it'll track your history here. If you're looking at specific meters, it brings you back to the point, you're able to change the featured points. So you have different featured points for each of your equipment here. And then you can go from a grid view to a table view. Once again, depending on who's looking at the information, you can go in and change that as well. That's the nice part about Reflow. So now I'm going to go into the buildings tab here. We're going to look at all the different buildings that we have. You can have a map view so that you're able to also look at all the buildings from an overview here and go into them based on where they're located. You'll see that they've got the little alarm console up here. So it'll show you if a building is in an alarm setting. We'll go into the admin building here and take a look. Now we're going into the sub page. So we're going to have a sub navigation in the building here, where you're going to have it look exactly like it does up in the dashboard for Reflow in your main navigation, where you can toggle in between buildings. You're able to see all the alarms, schedules, floors, equipment histories, and an air quality tab, which is a customized page for the admin building. You select the different cards that you've got to track certain information. You're able to look by floor plans. So if you have multiple floors, you can have those here. And then you've got the equipment sorted out here as well. So when we're looking into a floor plan for a building, you'll notice that we have the big, large floor plan here. You're able to toggle between the floor plans. Sub navigation here will let you know where you are. You're able to go into specific buildings, and as you can see, everything is cooling, or you've got things in heating or unoccupied. You can go into that certain point, look at the graphic for that point. Once again, you'll have the information here. This is an okay point right now. You've got action items, or you're going to have something where you're looking at a history that is being tracked. If an item has a history that it is pulling from your workbench station, when your points are all getting pulled, it'll pull the history and workbench as well from into the Reflow space. So here we see that something's been overridden because it's in purple. You can customize those colors as well. And we can go back into the floor plan here. So if we're looking into the alarms of the admin building, this is going to be the specific alarms that we're looking at for this building. You're able to go into that specific alarm. It'll bring up information here. You've got points up here where you can acknowledge, you can hyperlink, you can look at notes or alarm details. In the alarm details tab, you've got a summary, you've got a table. These also may look familiar to what your workbench station looks like. And then you can add notes, whether that is manually to go turn off a switch, to go in and reset, or do something with a specific temperature controller. Items like that you can put in here. We can acknowledge an alarm. It'll let us know that it was acknowledged successfully. We can go in and close, and it'll pull it out of here. So when we're looking at the schedules again, different roles and different users throughout your buildings and portfolio will have access to different information, and you can create that in the back half of this. The schedules for the admin building will show here. You're able to look and pick a specific schedule. Once again, it'll show you that information here. You've got the different floors, easily customizable. You can change the pictures and the fonts and everything you've got going on here. You've got the equipment like we showed on the previous part up here, where you can look at the different equipment for that specific building. You can pull in all the histories for that specific building. Once again, all these tabs up here in the sub navigation and the main navigation bar are customizable. You can hide or show them depending on who's utilizing the space. Last but not least, you've got an air quality tab. This is a customized page. As you can see, it goes into the dark mode, which is also another feature that you have. For the air quality, you can use any points you'd like. You can customize this page to show any information that you are pulling from your workbench station, because Reflow works through Niagara and it sits on top of it. It's not recreating a page for you. So with the air quality tab being a customized page, I'm going to hop on over here to our main navigation, look at the KPIs. Something that you can do here is look at what you have going on in an overall view for all of your portfolio, all your buildings, your campus, whatever you're looking at. You can take a look and see all your utilities that you're using throughout your buildings and equipment. You can look at your electric demand in different charts and graphs. You're able to go in and maintain the status of your buildings. You can look at what the network status is. You can see all of your JACEs that you have, if they're online or offline. The IP address is directly associated with those in each of the buildings. You're able to add cards and look at the alarms, the users that you have added, removed, your point count on the BACnet trunk, and your network count as your point count overall in your entire network. These pages remain with Reflow. The KPIs are something that is available automatically in the Reflow station, but you can customize them and make them as you'd like. So when we're talking about customizable pages, just keep in mind that it could be information that is not necessarily tied to HVAC. You could have information that is with access and security. You could have your access and security cameras and information in your Reflow station as well. Everything is completely customizable and you're able to look at that there. Now your KPIs are fully available and they are regardless of if it's a JACE or a supervisor. So we're gonna log out of this demo and we're gonna go into the back part of it. So we're gonna do the technical demo now. Again, if everyone has questions, please put them into the Q&A so we can look at those at the end. Now I'm logging in to my specific demo here. You will be able to set up users and roles for each of your Reflow pages, depending on what access you want to give people. And when those people log into their Reflow page, they are just changing the visual guides that they have on there. They're not adjusting or changing the points in your Niagara workstation and workbench. They're just changing the way they look at it. Something to note that is someone bookmarks or adds a page as a favorite from that end user point of view that we just saw. So if they're able to customize some of those parts and pieces, it also saves time in the design and engineering part because someone can make the pages what they want to make them and the information that's important to them. And that's time and money that you're saving on your end and on their end as well. Now, this is going to be what it looks like when you're creating your Reflow pages. Up here, we have a drop-down that'll show you what its size is to. So when you're looking at Reflow and you're creating the pages for an end user or you're creating the pages for yourself, you're able to look at the different modes and see what it'll look like when you're scaling Reflow itself. Now, everything looks exactly the same here. You've got the default profiles here where you can also change the profiles and change the pages based on whose profile you're looking at. Now here in the theme point, we're looking at the pages here. So we're able to change the words. So as you're changing it, you're able to customize that information. It is as simple as that. You're able to change the subtitle here, the footers, the links. You can go into here and change the colors. So if your customer has a specific color palette that they use, they're able to look at that information here and there, make those changes. The picture in the background is completely changeable. You'll change the font, the branding. You're able to go in and change the alarm colors. So when you're looking at the different alarm priorities, you change the colors out here for whatever you'd like them to be based on the color palette that you have. Now, if you're using recent colors, you'll have those saved in there as well. When we're looking at the dashboard, you've got that information here that you can easily change. When we're looking at our navigation, you can enable or disable your navigation and you see it'll take it away from here at the top. So if you just want someone to have access to this one page and look at this information, this is all they're able to get. When you're creating the sub navigations, so when we were going into a specific building or we're going into the alarm console, you had navigations in here. So for example, if we go into the student center, we have a sub navigation here. We'll go into this part here. You can enable or disable that here. So depending on who's working into the specific Reflow page or the user or role that you're assigning to them, they will have access to this or not. You're able to change the dividers, the schedules, link information to here, all do that from here. The different colors on there, you can do that in the sub navigation as well. Your KPIs will also be in your sub navigation and you can add more navigations to each specific building that you're looking at or up here. So when you're going into the library, it'll pull that library page up. You can look at the building list here and you've got the information here for those. And you can play with the station as you're working in it. That's the beauty of Reflow. It is completely customizable and it's all real time. You don't have to get out, reload. You don't have to log off or restart your system in any way. You can change the height of the list of items. You're able to duplicate a page if you need to. You can make all the changes here. Now, when we hop over here into a landing page, this is going to be our landing page. It is our dashboard. You're able to enable the dashboard or disable the dashboard, and then you just have the equipment pages. You can change the name. So as we're changing information, it real life changes it here as well. I change everything back just because I don't want to do things that I will forget to change back, folks. But when we've got the maximum of columns, you can adjust that. So if you've got 3 cards here, we can make it, we can add them, we can change them as however we need to. You can put all of these here. It just depends on what you want to do as far as the information that you're showing. You've got a buildings map. You've got the weather that you can add here as well. You can do a weather forecast, or you can change that information here for that landing page. In each of these buildings, you can add a card. You're able to feature the equipment that you want to feature on here. You're able to add a histories widget if you wanted to add it, and it'll add it right down here and there. And you can change the names of all that. You're also able to change the colors of these little dash marks that you have here. Now, something fun that you can do is when you're looking at the gauges here for the library, you can change that card type to a circle if you wanted to, and it'll make it a circle. You can make it a historical chart if you wanted to change that card up here. Once again, completely customizable. It is very simple and easy to use. You can change the widths and the heights. You're changing the point here. You can search your points that you're displaying. You're able to change the icons here for different icons for electric or whatever point you're looking at in that card. You can disable a card, duplicate, or delete from this page as well. Now we're going to go into the equipment tab. When we're looking at the equipment, you have the groupings here that you can do by building and by type like we showed before. When you were able to go in and see the featured point, you're able to change that information as well. Your graphic settings here, you're able to default the view if you want to do a table view or a grid view. You're able to show point badge statuses, so that'll automatically change when you're doing that. You've got your device graphics here, the smart histories here that are showing whenever we have a point that is tracking a history. And then we can go in and change some settings here. So when we're looking at the equipment type, you have all this different information to look at it. You have a summary where the grid and the table. The default view that we have here is going to be that global view, which is the grid, or you can make it a table view if you'd like. You're able to add different types of views. You can go into the table view and disable or enable certain parts of it. And you're able to look at the information here. So when we're looking at the different points, here's where you can edit and add those points here. You can add a group of the points. You can check the featured points here that you have, or you're able to just go in and look at a specific air handler and change the way that this is visualized. So for this specific air handler, it's got that name. You can change it to air handler 2, whatever you'd like to change the name to here. You can make it a featured point here. The reflow graphic is enabled here that you're looking at. So you can select an image, the Niagara view, or a different org. You're able to add attachments. You can plot the points that you're looking at here. So these are all of the points that we have as status points that are in this specific air handler page. And you're able to go in and make those changes as well. So if you're going into a zone, you've got the different points here. You can star those and feature them, or you can take them away. You're able to edit all that information from the Reflow nav tree essentially here that we've got to customize everything. You can add new air handlers here as well. So the more points that you have, the more equipment that you have, you are able to make those changes. When we're looking at, same thing, we're looking at the VAV graphics, you're able to look at everything here, check out the different points that you've got, make changes to those points, and then save that template so you can use that again and duplicate it if you need to. Here we go. If we're adding an equipment type, you can add it here. You would change the grouping, the equipment type that you've got. You can add an entire group of equipment. So if you want to add energy valves, or if you want to add something else, you can add all of that information in. Now we're going to hop over to the buildings creation. So when we're in the buildings page, you're able to change the index page here. You're able to do the layout as just a map or a grid. You can go into the light and dark style, which is something that you can easily do depending on who's working on that reflow page specifically. You've got all the different markers here. So you've got your greens and your reds for all your maps. You can show a building picture. You can show your alarm count. You've got all the different coordinates for the specific locations that you've got. And then if you go into the index page, that's what we're looking at here for the layout. You've got a status display where you can make those changes here as well, where you've got different icons. If we're looking at a specific building here, if we're going to look at an admin building, you're going into that page specifically. So we're able to change the sub menu here or the sub navigation where you're enabling it or disabling it. You can change the colors for that theme, which would be you overriding the global colors for everything, which is where your dashboard page and your landing page is at. You can change your building list here, where you're going in and changing the different sizes. You're changing the buildings items, the groupings that you have. You can go into the equipment, make changes to your equipment, duplicate or delete equipment here in the sub navigation. So that's how simple it is. Everything is located in that one place where we're looking at here and working on this tree, and you're just going in and making those changes. Your schedules for the page here as well. You can select the specific schedules that you'd like to show for this admin building. You can add schedules, take them away. It depends on what information you'd like to show. And it's as simple as changing a toggle switch here for that. When you're looking at the histories, you are tracking your histories here. It is showing the histories that you're tracking. You're able to change from the two different views, from the grid view and from the table view here. You can enable and disable this. So as you can see, it'll take it away from that sub navigation. And you can look at the location information, the status display of the building here. You can duplicate or delete that building. As far as the building picture in the background, you are able to change that as well from here. You're able to change the page layout where it's showing here the hero cards. You can make them full page cards. You can change your subtitle to no subtitle or something custom. You can add a dashboard widget or take it away. You can add your floor plans or take those away. And you can take the equipment at the bottom. Now, when we're looking at the last part here is going to be the settings that I'm going to show y'all here. So schedules, once again, you can customize and change your schedules. But the settings portion is going to be where we're going to save, where we're going to have our backup. So when you're trying to save and automate backups, you can do that here. You can do incremental or your base backups that go to your Vykon workbench. Your user profiles is where you're going to be able to go into a specific user and design what they're able to look at and what they're not able to look at. Then, given those capabilities that that end user has, when they log into their Reflow station as the beginning portion, what we did, where they wouldn't have access to this nav tree here and this customization tab, they're able to still go in and make some changes so that the information that they're looking at is right there in front of them. You have users here that you can add. So if you're going in and adding a user, they get a username. You can go back into here and change the roles that they have, which is an admin or demo. You're able to give them access here. So what do they have access to? Will they have access to buildings, a specific building only? Are they going to have access to all the equipment pages? Will they have access to all the histories? It's something that you can look at here and see what they're given access to. You're able to give them navigation, so they can look at the global navigation or have the navigation enabled at all. You can duplicate a profile if you have multiple people within the same roles. And you're able to change their start page here to see what they look like, what it looks like when they land on that page and log in as that specific user. Okay, we're going to go into the licensing part here. So with Reflow, your host ID for your workbench station will show here. It'll show you the license type that you have, if it is active or not. When it expires, it shows you what the floor count is of everything that you have going on. So this is more like a point count or seeing what you have overall in your station with Reflow here. If you need to do a software update, your Reflow station will tell you that. Currently, Reflow is running at 1.5.4. For those of you who are keeping up to date with Niagara, we are currently at 4.11 and 4.12 is coming out, and you're able to check for updates here as well. Any additional options that you want to get, you have a wizard to getting started. You can reset the default configurations, or you can go into the different files for the configurations. So I believe this puts us at a good time to possibly do some questions here. So what I'm going to do is thank everyone for being a part of this. If you have any questions, I'm going to give control over to Adam. I know that we've got some questions here in the chat, and I will let it go over to them to answer those questions here.
Thank you, Roxette. Okay, so we do have several questions. While we pull those up, I'm going to let Roxette switch over to Adam. And Adam, if you don't mind unmuting, so that way we can hear you, we're going to go ahead and get kicked off. Let's go ahead and start with the Q&A question that we have pulled in, and then we'll go to chat. So the first question is, must histories exist in Niagara before a user could choose a point to display history?
Just getting my screen sharing here. Yeah, so as far as the histories, Reflow works directly with Niagara. So what's great is, actually, let me make sure I got the right one here. We will pull all of those histories directly from Niagara. So like Roxette mentioned, we're not putting anything new that you're doing when you're working in Niagara. You're really just leveraging all that work that you've already done in Niagara.
Awesome. All right. So did that answer your question? It was from an anonymous person, but did that address your question? And then also, let's go ahead and move on to some of the chat questions, starting with earlier on, we had a question on the equipment on the AHU side. It was in regards to doing 2D Tritium Kit SVG graphics over the 3D. Sometimes 3D is not preferred. Is that an option?
Yeah, so I don't know if you caught it when Roxette was looking through equipment, but I hope everyone can see my screen okay here.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm just going into this air handler, and what we see here is a combination of PX graphics as well as points down here that Reflow provides. So really, you can build any equipment graphic just like you normally would in a PX, but what we recommend is to make it really minimal. You don't have to worry about UI like navigation or putting client branding in, or even linking up a floor plan or buildings or other devices that may be served by this air handler. Reflow handles all that for you. You really just need a minimal PX graphic. It can be the 3D Kit PX graphics. It can be the 2D vector graphics from Kit PX. It can be graphics that you've purchased from a graphics place. Maybe you've got custom 3D renders, or you've got your own. All of those work just like they normally would in Niagara. And then you just embed that PX page right here with Reflow. And then Reflow is going to provide this really nice responsive way to interact with that graphic. And so you don't have to put a huge table of points and all of those things, because all those are provided for you by Reflow. When I go into the graphic, that's why we call this the Reflow style graphic. You can see here you've got space for image or a PX file, and then Reflow point cards here next to it. Your other option, or I guess two options in here, if you don't want to use this animated graphic that you've built and assigned to the device in Niagara, you can just pull in an image. And here we've got a stock image selected. This is not animated, it's a static image. And we provide some static images for you to use as placeholders and thumbnails. So, and sometimes they're just fine for a job, especially when you look at like boilers and chillers. There's really not a whole lot of moving parts that are traditionally displayed in a lot of cases. So yeah, so you can use these images that we provide. Again, they're static and they're really meant to be used as like things like thumbnails, like when we're on this type of screen here. By clicking though to the, one more thing to show you, by clicking to the default Niagara view, Reflow reaches out to that device, sees if there's a PX file associated with it, and embeds it in there. And then of course you can pick any view in Niagara. So here we've got that air handler, but we could pull in any, I could pull in a property sheet here for this points folder if I wanted. So you can see how, I'm really not limited to anything.
Awesome. And I think that addresses the other question we had about graphics, in which do we provide the graphics, or can the customer themselves, the user, provide the graphics? So thank you for addressing that as well. Yep. When putting Reflow on a Jace, are there memory concerns? That is another question we have.
Yeah, great question. So we've really tried to be very conscious of trying to be lightweight on the station side. And so really there aren't any memory concerns that would ever be sort of specific to Reflow. If your sort of standard Niagara graphics are running slow, you'll notice that Reflow will be just about as fast as those. And if they're running fine, you won't see any performance hit on the Reflow side. Reflow is deeply integrated into Niagara. We're using the same technology in Reflow as Niagara uses to build this menu or to serve this PX view here. We're not, there's no like special thing Reflow is doing. It's using the exact same framework to pull this data in here. So it's pretty bare bones. The other things that we've done inside of Reflow is that we've done things like we have a built-in weather service. And you may be wondering sort of where this weather data here is coming from. This actually connects out to the internet from my web browser to pull weather data from the Niagara Mods API servers. So what's great is my station never needs to have internet access itself. And my station is never gonna, sort of hang up if it can't connect out to the weather service, which we know can happen on Jaces sometime. So this is all, from the user directly to the web. So that means the end user will need to have internet access from their web browser when they're connecting, but your station can be completely firewalled and internet free. Okay. And hopefully that answers your other question, Daniel. You do not, it does not require internet access at the station level, but to view things like our mapping integration or live weather, the end user needs to have an active internet connection.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so another question we have, you may have addressed part of it, but just to call it out so everyone has a chance to hear the answer. How to add your own image in widgets, rotary fan pump. The button is like an iPhone.
Yeah, so you said that was on the, sorry, I missed where exactly that.
That question came from chat.
Okay.
You
said it was for a fan pump with a special button?
Yeah, I think I'm just under equipment.
Okay. So these over here are thumbnails. And then I didn't, maybe if I go back to the air handler, so all of these cards are generated by Reflow, if that's where we're sort of talking about. So you wouldn't add your own widgets. Reflow provides these things for you. You can, however, build custom dashboard cards and include those in equipment groups or in custom pages like you saw here on the KPIs. And to do that, I think it's probably worth taking a look. We've got a lot of impressive and helpful dashboard cards, but we know we're not going to have a card for every one of your customers' use cases. If you click add a card down here and you choose the HX view card, you can now embed any view from Niagara directly inside of a dashboard. So I could drop down into the equipment and maybe pick an air handler graphic if I wanted to pull that in. But I could also even pull in a property sheet or a BQL table that I've built into a PX file and pull that right inside of the dashboard. So really, you're only limited by your imagination, just sort of like with standard Niagara and using PX files. We just think in Reflow, you can pull them in a way that doesn't force you to be a user interface expert to design a navigation and pull colors through and things like that. Reflow will try to remove some of that unnecessary burden from you.
Awesome. Okay, and then our next question actually comes from chat as well. Typically, how long does it take after Niagara release versions for NMODs to verify function and update?
Yeah, so we strive for day one compatibility. 4.12 is not out yet, but I can tell you Reflow works with the latest version available in the Tritium early access channel. So typically when we're this far into early access, major changes aren't happening. So I can, as any developer, I would never be 100%, but I can say with 99% certainty that there are no major issues with 4.12, and that hasn't even been released yet. Specifically regarding our release cycle, we tend to release a new version of Reflow every 30 to 45 days with bug fixes, minor feature updates, and sometimes very major feature updates, at least once a quarter, major feature updates. You can find our changelog, and to verify that, I'll just pull it up actually. Documentation's built into Reflow, so I can go here and go to our changelog. Our last release was just a month ago today. And we've got another bug fix release coming out here next week. So 30 to 45 days, we have a pretty active release cycle where we're making tons of improvements.
Awesome. And then we have a combination question here, 2 questions in one. How do you combine multiple supervisors, and how to receive accidents via SMS and telegrams?
Yeah, so typically what you would think of combining supervisors sort of the same way as how you would build out a Niagara architecture for like lots of JACEs in a single supervisor. You only, unless you want local access, you really only need Reflow running at the supervisor level. So I think probably the most economical way would be to get license Reflow for the supervisor that will be the main graphics station, and then connect your other supervisors through the Niagara network. So it can pull that data from them. Now, what you can do, if for some reason you have 2 different experiences, you can always go into like navigation and add an item. And if you look at our link picker here, you can link anywhere in Reflow. You can link anywhere in Niagara, and you can also specify any URL. So you could theoretically, type in the URL to a station through its IP address here that's local, and you could connect. That directly that way. And if you were using something like single sign-on, the user probably wouldn't even have to log into the station, and it would feel seamless. And that would be if you've got multiple versions of Reflow running and you want to sort of link between the 2 of them.
Awesome. And we did have a question come through Q&A. And your next update is the bug in Niagara 4.10 going to be fixed?
Yeah. So we, unfortunately, that one isn't our bug. So we've when 4.10.0 came out, we addressed all of the compatibility issues. Tritium released 4.10.U1 or 4.10.1. And that ships with a bug in the browser that runs in Workbench. So this web browser right here. And that bug prevents you from viewing the Reflow view inside of Workbench. So just like I've got here, this, I'm in my web version of web UI of Niagara. This is the web UI versus the Workbench UI. Well, this is just a web browser over here on the right, and that's where the bug exists. We alerted Tritium of the bug. They promptly fixed it in 4.11, but I haven't seen a patch come through for 4.10.1, and it's fully out of our control. It's a bug inside of their internal web browser. So I'm still crossing my fingers that they'll release 4.10.1.77 or 4.10.2 where it's addressed, but it's out of our hands, but I can't say fixed in 4.11.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get that worked out and fixed soon. On the topic still of updates and releases, are there additional or repurchases of licensing when Niagara does major version releases?
No. So when you buy Reflow 1.x, you get all of the updates for through the life cycle of Reflow 1.x. So we're pretty firm in making it easy to acquire and not be a burden months and years later for you or your customers, when they need to upgrade.
And then on the topic of usability, is there the ability to translate menus and dashboards into other languages such as Russian and Ukrainian?
Yeah, great question. So we've got limited support for localization. So you'll see in almost every situation, you can come in here and change the title. So in almost every situation, and all the really important ones, you can use any language that you'd like. Now, in a future release, mid to late summer, we will have full localization support. And so let me show you, like, one of the limitations from localization would be, like, when I look at equipment and I look at group by type or group by building, those two buttons can't be changed. And so we will, while you can, change this and change every like equipment type and those types of things, this one is one that you just can't edit right now. We have our international community of users is growing quite a bit, and we've committed to full localization support, as you would expect, here later this year.
Well, that's awesome news. Okay, we got a couple more questions and we've got 5 minutes till, so we'll try and tackle those. Why not withdraw the cost of dollars for the payment of consumed energy?
So this is a really quick demo to show capabilities. I know we talked a little bit about these KPIs. It's important to note KPIs are just a custom page here. So we've just built these dashboards custom, just like you would be able to do when you came in here. So yeah, we understand that, it's the idea is to show the features and not necessarily, I know it's hard not to look at data that's wrong and think like, hey, they should have done it this way, but this is really, demo purposes. So that's, forgive us if we miss something obvious on, what someone would traditionally do in that sector. I think, I'm a coder guy, so I can get I got all the source code figured out. It's every once in a while we can use some help on, the best way to communicate data here to engineers. So appreciate that tip, and we'll take that back to the team who keeps track of all this stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Okay, we have, I think, 2 more questions here. Do you have examples of a BQL table? For instance, all points in an override and reflow.
Yeah, so I don't have a specific example I can pull up, but what I can show you really quickly how you can get there really fast. So add a new page. When I add a new page, much like on my equipment graphic, I can pick like a Reflow dashboard, or I can pick a Niagara page. And so as soon as I do that, now I can pull in any view. And I used an equipment graphic earlier. I've also used like a property sheet, but really any view that's available in Niagara, you can pull in. So you would be able to pull that BQL query into a Reflow, like onto a PX file, and then pull it in like this in a custom page. And there's all sorts of things you can do as far as like the layout and getting it to where it's going to fit the right way. You can even like assign a building sub navigation to it, so it can be a part of a building. But that's how you would do it today. I would do something like this and just embed it in there. I will tell you though, in the future, so Roxette did a great job demoing our automatic tables and how powerful they are, because you don't have to build that query anymore. You build one that makes sense and then let your customers make changes themselves to the data they want to see. That eliminates rework for you as an integrator. A new stakeholder comes along and now you're adding 3 more columns, and then they leave and someone else comes along and you've got all this unbillable time that you just keep changing things for the stakeholder. Well, with Reflow, you can sort of put some power in their hands and let them make views that they need. Those views specifically, all points in override, other important like status tables that you would typically want to see, we're planning on expanding this support, and those will be built in as well. And you'll be able to say, show me any point on any of these types of devices that's in override, and we'll build that table for you. That's another feature that's coming here in one of our summer releases.
Awesome. Okay, last question, and then we'll move on to Jim to close us out for the day. What computer resources are needed so that the program does not slow down and can store annual reports? As far as like resources on the compute, like on the front end side for computer, I mean, Reflow is going to work with all modern sort of evergreen browsers. So Edge, Chrome, Firefox, Safari.
So just a newer sort of modern browser, and there's really not a whole lot of other performance implications as long as you sort of have that modern browser. Reflow on the station side, again, you get the same performance out of Reflow as you would anything else sort of running on that station. And I would just also add that like storing annual reports is sort of out of the feature set for Reflow. Reflow's a visualization tool. And so we're not really storing reports or generating reports that would be stored on a station. You would sort of probably use the default Niagara reporting functionality for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. All right, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that way you guys have our contact information. If we did not tackle your question today, you can either reach out to us directly or we'll reach out to you directly. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jim to close us out. We really appreciate your time today. Be on the lookout for a survey with the link to the recording of this webinar. We would greatly appreciate your feedback so we can continuously improve and do things for you that interest you and serve you in the best way we can. So with that being said, Jim, do you mind taking it over?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. And thank you to all of our panelists today. You guys did a fabulous job. Roxette and Adam, excellent, excellent job. And a shout out to CCI team and of course Rachel for setting this whole thing up and being our liaison and technical guru. But yeah, to the audience, I think you can see that this is really kind of like the bee's knees and it's kind of the modern UI interface. And I know it's got you all thinking about different ways of using it. I can tell by the questions that are being asked, because those are the same kind of things that pop up into my mind. Well, what about this? Do we have to do graphics in Niagara? Or what if I do graphics in Niagara? Are those little, thumbnail images, do they animate or are they just an image? And then, when you start realizing how this UI works and its purpose, you kind of realize that, well, maybe an animating image is, probably not. Do I need it? I guess is what my thought is. But dashboards, I mean, you can see that this is really kind of the icing on the cake, if you will. So I want to thank you all for attending this WebEx, and like I said, keep your ear to the ground for some other exciting ones. We're going to do deep dives into the VEC10 equipment controller, Vykon equipment controller, my favorite controller because it's the lowest cost instance of Niagara, runs the full stack, and you can put Reflow on it. And some of the other exciting products. So again, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their schedule and for our team. And with that, I will say good day to you all.